In the vacuum of space, even a pinhole-sized breach can be fatal. The woman was terrified by the scene before her. She suddenly realized that her glove had been torn by the sharp spike on the cover. You have to understand, in the extreme environment of outer space, even a small patch of exposed skin can cause the lungs to explode instantly due to the enormous pressure difference inside and outside the body. At this moment, everyone in the command center was stunned. The man rushed over without hesitation and just in the nick of time managed to bring the woman safely back into the space capsule. However, because he was a step too slow in closing the hatch, he almost got the woman killed. All because, in that split second, she saw a wondrous light, a light that seemed to come from heaven, leaving her momentarily entranced. Because of this incident, the leaders at the space station asked him what exactly he had seen. Unexpectedly, the man replied that he had seen an angel. Naturally, no one believed such an absurd answer. The leaders thought he must have been hallucinant and immediately decided that he was no longer qualified to carry out space missions. Yet fate always has a sense of irony. Not long after, the space station suddenly went on strike and completely stopped function. If it continued to spiral out of control, the space station would soon crash into Earth, causing a catastrophic disaster. With no other options left, the leaders had no choice but to once again plead with this experienced man to come out of retirement, asking him to risk his life to carry out the nearly impossible docking and repair mission. In the next moment, the man and his teammates found themselves in the vast sea of stars, but to their shock, disaster struck much sooner than expected. The spacecraft's thrusters suddenly detached, and in an instant, they became lost souls drifting in space. At this point, the man had only 3 chances to dock with the space station. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the first docking attempt ended in failure. The commander immediately told everyone to take a short break and get ready to discuss a new plan. But the man and his teammates didn't wait for instructions from headquarters, they sprang into action again. After a series of nerve-wracking melee, the man miraculously managed to complete with docking. But when the two entered the interior of the space station, they realized the situation was far more complicated than they had imagined. Just as they finished cleaning up the floating water droplets in zero gravity, the space station still couldn't be powered up. The man had no choice but to climb outside the module again to investigate. It was only then that he discovered a meteorite had damaged the sensor housing of the space station. However, the sensor housing was unusually tough. No matter how hard he struck it, it wouldn't budge an inch. Just at that moment, a single water droplet that had been missed quietly floated into the cabin and landed right on the electronic equipment, triggering a deadly butterfly effect. In an instant, the resulting sparks ignited the equipment, not only severely burning his teammate, but the tremendous shock also nearly blasted the man out into the pitch-black void of space. And at this point, their oxygen was almost depleted. The spacecraft was now completely out of control. Their only chance of survival was to smash open the sensor casing. If they could do that, the space station would immediately resume operation, and the desperately needed oxygen supply would be restored. But in a weightless environment, this became an impossible task. No matter how hard they tried, the metal casing simply wouldn't break open. Just when all hope seemed lost, an injured teammate unexpectedly gave him a hint. Once the spacecraft entered the Earth's shadowed side, the temperature would plummet and the metal casing would become extremely brittle due to the intense cold. This became their final gamble. So, the two of them waited until the spacecraft entered Earth's shadow, enduring the bone-chilling cold that made the metal casing both cold and brittle before they began to exert their strength. Next, they gathered their strength and waited for the sunlight to shine on them again, then used thermal expansion and contraction to deliver one final powerful blow. With a bang, the outer shell finally broke off. The sensors instantly resumed working, oxygen began to flow again, and the two of them narrowly escaped death. But just then, that mysterious light appeared once more, gently shining down on them. And this dreamlike scene was finally no longer the man's seat alone. Perhaps it wasn't an angel at all, but rather the light of hope that never gave up in the face of every desperate situation.